This is supposed to be a musical game between two people.
Oh, so
We have these two stations here, the red station and the blue station. They're set up to be playing a game against each other. They're connected by these two strings. One of the strings is used to play competitiveness encouraging taunts that also make it
Hooray!
more interesting for the audience. The other one switches the roles of the two stations.
Red humbly requests a challenge. Blue accepts. Ready? Begin. Change your partner's synth. Change your partner's ADSR envelope. Change your partner's synth. Change your partner's ADSR envelope. My grandma will play that better than you. You can just have home. Do you think I'm using reverse psychology? Now red plays drums and blue plays the lead.
Each of these boxes has 5 trigger pads, 4 rotary encoders, 4 buttons, and 2 sliders that are active, and this kill switch thing.
the kill switch sends, if you've got any active MIDI notes, it sends it off to all of them, and when you have really long release envelopes, it tends to take a while. But the neat thing about that is, especially when you're playing the synth, is you can have polytonality going, or polyphony going on, and then you can stop them all at once. Or there's control to stop them selectively from the pads so that you can change chords.
The cables we have just tied off, so we can make this a lot longer if we want, as long as you have enough ribbon cable. Or we can even just put them right next to each other.
They're anchored on one box. Like each of these has a plate in it that Nick made. That has a limit switch that's biased by a spring, and they're each mirror copies of each other. It's offset so that you can put the same thing in both boxes and then hook them up. So each side has an anchor point.
So when you pull them, they switch, and then when you release, the spring just tensions it back into place. One cable actually switches functions on machines, so you can, depending on what it tells you, you can mess with your opponent's ADSR envelope, or what instrument they're playing, or at certain points it'll just switch instruments, so instead of drums, now you're playing the leads. And the other string is just for a series of taunts, which are all randomized.
Do you think I'm using reverse psychology?
So we have all of this pre-recorded, and depending on what's going on, it tells you to do different things. So when it tells you to switch your opponent's ADSR envelope, you actually have control over it for about, I think it's 5 or 6 seconds.
Yeah.
Change your partner's pad.
I think 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds.
Originally we were just going to have a change, but then you'd have no idea what was happening. So we added the voice and the beats so that both the people playing it and the onlookers know exactly what's happening.
Or relatively what's
Relatively what's
Well,
happening.
better idea what's
Yeah.
happening.
You use different portions of the box to affect different portions of the sound, depending on whether you're playing the lead or the pad and drum set.
So the control of the lead synthesizer is done using, like, you can select the master volume for that synthesizer, but you can also change the pitch based on the slider position, which is in a chromatic scale. So It has a little bit of noise from this the slider being not perfect, but actually adds interest by randomly skipping to another note. And we have 4 different synth patches, all of which are subtractors, but with some of which are set to do straight legato, and some of them are set to do retrigger. When you're in drum mode, you have 2 drum kits and 2 pads. The pads are both Thors that have really, really long decays, so that you can just sort of leave one going, and then switch back to the drums. So we have this electronic sounding evil one, and then we also have the angel choir one. When you're in pad mode, it uses 5 notes of a pentatonic scale, so you can get that feel going on. And you can also mess with the envelope of those synthesizers using these controls. So basically, you push the button for which instrument you want to be controlling, and suddenly all the controls control that. Meanwhile, whatever was going on in the background keeps going on.
When you're trying to switch functions between 2 like dedicated boxes and Max, the best way that I thought of doing this was taking dedicated inputs from each and then running them through a switcher. And depending on the state of the system, it sends what's set out to the synth module within Max, or sends it out to a drum module within Max. And so there's all sorts of routing inside, uses a lot of the gating and switches within Max to determine proper flow, and it adjusts every time that you switch